Director Griffin here, and today we are going to be going over the Republic command cards, putting them into a tier list. I just want to preface this by saying that the Republic command cards are going to be extremely skewed, much like the faction. They are an incredibly strong grouping of commands, which really benefits the faction. I think it's one of the reasons why it was necessary to nerf them. So when you see the final rankings of this, don't be surprised that it's very, very tilted in one direction. So without any further ado, let's begin. We're going to start off with mechanized incursion. Synchronized defensive. That's what it's called. Mechanized incursion is the other one. Synchronized defensive says, after a friendly vehicle unit is issued an order, choose a friendly clone trooper unit at a range 1 to 2 of it, and issue that unit an order. I am going to put this at... I want to put it at gimmick tier. I really do, because, like, you either run vehicles or you don't, and it's kind of a gimmick card if you do. But I'm actually going to put it at B tier. And I'm kind of waffling. No, I'm going to put it back to gimmick tier. I'll talk about why it's good in the gimmick video, but it is gimmick tier. It does demand that you have a vehicle, so it's going there. Moving on to air support. Air support says... once this round, at the end of the activation of a friendly commander clone trooper unit or a friendly field commander unit, it may perform an attack using the following weapon. Range 4 to unlimited, 1 red, 2 black, beam 2, and it's immune to deflect. I am going to put this at probably A tier. I think A tier is a solid choice. It's a really strong beam. It technically has the highest potential damage out of any beam attack or any bombard attack. Though it is limited currently to sharpshooter 1 units, which means more or less it's only going to hit 6 at best. Assuming everybody's in heavy cover. But if you can somehow catch like 2 or 3 units out of cover or even in light cover, this card can do more damage than even coordinated bombardment. So definitely, I'd say probably this, maybe the second strongest. I think it's tied at this point now with the droid bombard in terms of strength, now that the droids have sharpshooter 2. Before I would have put it higher. So I guess it really comes down to, if they're taking a super attack, it's about even, but air support is just an A tier bombard. So last but not least is Attack of the Clones. I would put Attack of the Clones at, that is a good question. I would say probably A tier, even though they can no longer share all those tokens that they have. Just giving out surge tokens to a bunch of clones still makes them surge to defense, basically. Very strong. It's strictly better than an assault in a clone list 9 times out of 10, which would put it at B tier, but I think that the fact that it just makes your red saves even redder puts it up to A tier. Then moving on to General Kenobi, we start off with... Oh, I didn't actually read what Attack of the Clones does. Ha! Sorry about that. Attack of the Clones says, when a unit is issued an order using this card, it either gains 1 surge token or removes 1 suppression token. So, 9 times out of... I would say 99 out of 100 times. I think I've seen it used for surges. So, anyway, back to Kenobi. So, Kenobi's 1 pip is Hello There. It issues an order to him. He gains Nimble at the start of the activation phase. He gains an aim, a dodge, a standby, or 1 surge token for each enemy unit within range 1 to 2. Generally, this translates to, in order, 1 standby, 1 aim, and then a bunch of dodges. That allows, in most situations, Obi to get a double attack off, and he also can kind of delay his activation, unlike most other units' 1 pips. Because he can just wait for something else to go, then standby attack, then go in his activation and attack again. Very, very strong card. So it is going up to S tier. Almost any card that allows a Jedi to double attack is going to be an S tier. The fact that it also gives him Nimble just means that, like, he only needs technically 1 dodge to constantly be able to spam out his Suresu Masteries. It's just a really strong card overall, and it really only is mitigated by, like, Maul's 3 pip that prevents him from using tokens. Other than that, there's not much you can do to kind of stop him from being super defensive for the whole turn. And then the standby can be mitigated by pushes or any I guess a dewback hitting him with a suppressive weapon would do it too. There's a few ways to deal with the standby part of it, but the dodges are very, very difficult to get past. So definitely an S tier card. So next up is Knowledge and Defense. Knowledge and Defense is also an S tier card. I think this will surprise no one. Obi-Wan gains 1 dodge token for each friendly trooper unit at range 1, and he can Guardian during a melee attack. This is just a hyper flexible Guardian, and he gets a bunch of dodges like right away. Almost all of Obi's cards, fittingly, allow him to go later in the turn. Allows him to kind of react to the opponent. Very much a defensive playstyle, and just the ability to absorb anything, including like Wookiee charges, is incredibly strong. So Obi just gets to throw a bunch of damage back for an entire turn, and it feels really, really good. Last is his 3-pip, that is General Kenobi. When Obi-Wan Kenobi issues an order to a unit, that unit gains 1 search token for each other friendly unit at range 1 of it. I'm going to put this at A tier. Much like Attack of the Clones, surges are really good. They're just not S tier good. And it does make him super tanky, but it's just, I would say it's like high A tier, like barely brushing the bottom of S tier. Very strong. Obi-Wan's got a great command suite. He's just, I think he suffered a long time from not being a clone trooper. And now that Anakin and Yoda and Padme's exemplar-esque gameplay is the flavor of the month for Gar, he's still just not seeing play. If he was in another faction with these command cards like Empire, oh my, he would be a top tier pick, I feel like, consistently, but right now he's just struggling to find his place in the least diverse roster meta of the entire game. Moving on to the man who was almost always in every list, was Clone Captain Rex. We start off with his 1-pip, which is Call Me Captain. When Clone Captain Rex, he gains fire support. When he uses fire support, he does not flip his order token face down. When a friendly unit performs a melee attack, he can fire support to add his ranged weapon to the attack pool. Basically, he just gets to add 3 red to a bunch of attacks. Very, very strong. Does a solid amount of damage. No keywords for him to add, I don't think. As I recall, I don't think he has any. Yeah, he doesn't have any keywords he adds to it. But he just, again, throwing 3 red into any attack pool that's within range 2, basically, of him is very, very strong. So I am going to put this at A tier. No, I'm sorry, S tier. S tier. I'm insane. S tier. 3 red to a bunch of attacks is S tier. But moving on to the next card. Take That Clankers would have been S++++ before the nerf. Now it says, after a friendly clone trooper unit that has a face-up board token performs an aim action during its activation, it may increase the maximum range of each of its ranged weapons by 1 to a maximum of 4 until the end of that activation. This used to be abused in so many ways. You would just need to get an aim on pretty much anything, and it would get a range boost and throw, massive pools at range 4, and it was just very, very difficult to play around. So I would still say it's probably A tier. I just think it's less efficient than it was, but it's still a very strong card. Anything that can increase a range band is really, really good. So I still think it's A tier. Last but not least, we have We're Not Programmed. Clone Captain Rex gains Inspire 2 and 2 Surge tokens. When he activates, he recovers. It also issues an order to 4 units versus most 3s that issue an order to 3 units. I'm going to put this at B tier. It's good. It's not astounding. And honestly, it might be an A tier card in other factions, but in a faction where the command cards are as strong as they are in Gar, I think it's a B tier card at this point. So, moving on to R2, I think since I've already kind of done his explanations in videos, I'm just going to quickly remind people, Blast Off is A tier. R2 gains a maximum, he increases his movement speed by 1, he gains a dodge, a suppression, disengage, and jump. It's just his I'm going to score now card. It's good. Though you're seeing it less and less in the list because, again, it has a lot of competition from other Gar cards. Impromptu Immolation is going to C tier because R2 never wants to attack, and getting the free move is cool and all, but it doesn't justify him having to attack to do it. What it says is, after R2-D2 performs an attack, he may perform a free move action. During his activation, he gains the following weapon: melee to 1, 2 white, blast spray, suppressive. It's a weak but neat little attack. But again, he shouldn't be that close. So, Smokescreen, I think I put it at B tier before, so that's where it's going again. Smokescreen says when R2-D2 issues an order to another friendly trooper unit, it may perform a speed 1 move. At the start of the activation phase, R2 may perform the following. He gets to put out a smoke token at range 1. A lot of times you'll see a comms relay on R2 for this, so that he can give 2 units a speed 1 move. It's a strictly better... what is Leia's 2-pip? Whatever Leia's 2-pip is, I can't think of it off the top of my head. It's just a better version of that because he gets a smoke token too, and it's slightly slower. So, moving on to Padme Amidala, who is seeing a ton of play, but unfortunately her command cards are not. We'll start off with Our Fate is in Your Hands, her 1-pip. Padme Amidala gains Danger Sense 2. At the start of the activation phase, Padme Amidala may transfer any number of suppression tokens from trooper units at range 1 to 2 of herself. For each token transferred, she gains a dodge token, up to 2 dodge tokens. It's cool, but like Gar doesn't care about suppression, so I'm gonna put it at B tier. There's a lot that happens there, but again, you're competing with a lot of very, very good 1-pips, and I don't see this seeing play a whole lot. Next up is Padme's 2-pip, which I do see a lot more. Aggressive Negotiations. When she issues an order to a trooper unit, it may perform either a speed 1 move or may gain 1 aim, dodge, or surge token. This is S tier. This is weird to say because like I just rated a 3-pip R2 card as like with this, basically a similar effect as a B tier one. But the thing about Padme is that unlike R2, she just gives a ton of flexibility with this card. The speed 1 moves are nice, but also just being able to gain an aim, a dodge, or a surge. She's generally paired with like Jedi, and being able to give them just a free dodge at the start of the turn is really good. Maybe you've got a unit in melee that just needs to kill something super fast, give it an aim. There's just more flexibility with Aggressive Negotiations than there is with Smokescreen. And it's also the pipping. 2-pips are generally more utilitarian by nature, and I see aggressive fit into more lists than Smokescreen does in a 3-pip. Last but not least is Diplomatic Cover. Diplomatic Cover is also going to go into S tier. It's got 2 effects, one of which I've almost never seen. The permanent effect of this is if this card was divulged, Padme Amidala gains Secret Mission. If it was not, she gains Reliable 1 instead. The divulge trigger is during the deploy unit step, she gains Infiltrate, and when she is deployed, she gains a dodge token. Then she has to play that card round 1. Generally, I see people playing this for Reliable 1 because it's just now a surge token that you can pass to anybody, which is kind of what Gar wants to constantly have. I very rarely see this used for Secret Mission. Generally, it's just being used to give Padme the ability to support harder. So, very good card, though. There's an argument to be made that it belongs in A tier because it's only Reliable 1. I'm picking it off of the base of how much I see it being played. I would have probably picked A tier if I just didn't know how much it fits into lists so often. Moving on to Anakin Skywalker. Pre-Vader Vader. This is where the fun begins. His 1-pip. It gives a permanent effect, which all of his command cards do, so I'm not going to say permanent again, but Anakin Skywalker gains Outmaneuver and Relentless. At the end of his activation, if he was not the first friendly unit to activate during the current round, he gains a suppression token. This is, from what you would look at, a very strong card, but Anakin is very restricted in terms of what he can do. As I understand it, this card basically means he can't stand by. Because he has to basically immediately activate, and if he doesn't immediately activate, like, he gets suppression. So, like, there's no way to, like, give him standbys conveniently. It's just... Now that Yoda has the ability to give him Relentless, a lot of people are cutting this card, from what I've seen. So, it's good, but it's not S tier anymore from what I'm seeing. Then you have Anakin's 2-pip, which is You Underestimate My Power. He gains Surge to Crit, and oh, that's not good. And Master of the Force 1, he gains Defend 1 as well. At the end of activation, if he did not perform an attack, he gains a suppression. I'm sorry, this is what turns him off from being able to stand by. Because if he doesn't attack, he gains a suppression. So he can no longer like move into combat and then stand by. It makes him a very aggressive attacker. That said, I think this is also probably an A tier card. And the reason for that is Surge to Crit and Master of the Force 1 is really good, and then also Defend 1. He'll get a bunch of dodges, and he has Exemplar from his next card. He gets Surge to Crit, Master of the Force. He gets so much out of this card, so much value. So I think it's A tier. last but not least, is Hero of the Clone Wars. Anakin gains Exemplar and Reliable 2. If at the end of his activation he is not within range 1 of 2 of a friendly unit, he gains a Suppression token. This is going straight up to S tier. Again, just being able to give other units surge tokens and then having 2 surges that he can use is really, really good on a Jedi who, wants to be able to tank some hits while going in. This is the card that I've never not seen Anakin get used. I've seen both his 1 and his 2 cut for various reasons, but I have never once seen this card get the cut. So that's part of the reason it's going up to S tier. We're going to move now into the big, or should I say little cheese himself, Yoda, who is perhaps unsurprisingly going to get some very, very strong points here. I'm going to start off with his 1-pip. No, I'm going to do this weird. I'm going to start with his 3-pip because this is what you're going to deal with the most. Luminous Beings are we. Yoda gains 2 aims, 2 dodges, and 2 surge tokens. So just off the bat, he gets 6 tokens. That's insane. He cannot attack. Oh no. Friendly units at range 1 to 3 can spend Yoda's green tokens. Very importantly, unlike Exemplar, this does not require line of sight. He can hide behind a rock and still get this. If size matters not is in your discard pile, return it to your hand. So basically, Yoda cycles through his command cards in a descending order. So what you'll generally see done here is you'll see him paired with Padme, and his 2 actions will be to take a standby and then guidance Padme to take a standby. Your opponent now has to deal with the fact that they're now facing down a list that has 2 aims, 2 dodges, 2 surges, and 2 standbys. Very, very, very strong card. The only thing that kind of mitigates it is the fact that he can't spam it off every single turn. So yeah, this is going straight up to S tier. I don't think that surprises anybody. Next up is There Is No Try. When Yoda issues an order to a trooper unit, it gains Outmaneuver, Relentless, and 1 dodge. If Luminous Beings are we as in your discard pile, return it to your hand. Again, if you play them in descending order, you just keep getting them back. This card is really good because a lot of people are taking Burst of Speed on Yoda. So Yoda becomes a Burst of Speed monster for a turn. He gets, Outmaneuver, Relentless, and a dodge. And somebody else does too, like Wookiees. So they can, shoot on approach, or, strafe in, strafe out, or just do any number of unpleasant things. So There Is No Try is also going up to S tier. Now you might be wondering why I mentioned Burst of Speed. Well, with Yoda's 1-pip, he can basically negate the downside. If he Burst of Speeds on his 2-pip, since one of the things he gets now, size matters not, Yoda gaining Jump, Charge, Disengage, and treats his movement speed as 3. He becomes a speed 2 because he hasn't immobilized from the previous turn's Burst of Speed, so he doesn't suffer the negatives. The only units that suffer the negatives are the units that needed the help the most, Palpatine and Vader, and it kind of hurts to see. But so during his activation, Yoda may perform any number of his free or triggered actions up to 2 times. If there is no tries in your discard pile, return it to your hand. So yeah, can anybody guess where this is going? Straight up to S tier. All of Yoda's cards are S tier cards. They are insane value, which is why it just hurts to look at Palpatine and be like, oh man, Yoda is just a much better version of what you kind of were intended to be. So he's not worried about taking damage. He's not worried about being slowed down because he needs to burst to get into melee. Yoda can also, with that card, with what size matters not, he can just double tap an objective if he's already on it. He's just sitting next to an objective and he goes boop boop, two triggers. So for VAPs or something, you can just end game, win the game if you have that ability available. So very, very, very strong Yoda. There's no surprise that he's been taking top spots in a lot of events. Moving on to the Wookiee generics, we have, I'm not going to try to roar this out. I'm just going to call it G. Just roar. G-roar. When a friendly unit is issued an order by a Commander Wookiee Trooper unit, if it is wounded or one or more of its minis has been defeated, it gains an aim, a dodge, and a surge token. I'm honestly going to put this at A tier. It's not Wookiee dependent. You need to have a Wookiee leader to use it. But if you're running an army, and you have Wookiees in it, and then your leader gets defeated, and you promote a Wookiee, this card can technically be used for that. technically all the Wookiee cards should be gimmick tier. Like, you know what? I have to put in gimmick tier. Actually, I'll make it A tier in the gimmick video. That won't surprise anybody, but I'll make it A tier in the gimmick video because it does require a Wookiee commander, so you have to build around it. Again, incomprehensible roaring as the 2-pip. Each friendly Wookiee trooper unit that is issued an order by a commander Wookiee trooper unit gains agile 1. Again, it's a gimmick tier card. I think it's B tier in a Wookiee list, so like with a Wookiee chieftain. So it's good. It's very, very good. But again, it requires those specific builds. Yar Warg, the 3-pip. Each friendly Wookiee trooper unit that is issued an order by a commander Wookiee trooper unit gains demoralize 1. Again, going into gimmick, but I think that this is probably the weakest at like maybe, I would say C tier, because it's better than Assault because it issues 3 trooper units in order and it has an effect attached. So it's better than Assault. So maybe it's B tier. Yeah, I'd say it's actually probably, it's B tier. I'd say so 2 Bs and an A, but they're gimmicks technically. And then of course, Chewbacca's card is also going into gimmick tier, and I will say it is in, well, size matters sometimes. Let me read it what it does first. If Chewbacca is at range 1 of a friendly Yoda, you may place that Yoda within base contact of Chewbacca. If you do, Yoda cannot perform moves, and after Chewbacca moves, place Yoda in base contact with Chewie. While Yoda is in base contact with Chewbacca, Chewbacca gains Deflect and can spend Yoda's dodge tokens and rolls red defense dice while defending or using Guardian. It's a really good card because it just teleports Yoda around. I would say I think it's A tier, but again, just because of the restrictions that it has to go into gimmick tier for now. So, that is the Republic commands all sorted out. As I said, incredibly skewed results here. There are very few weak Republic command cards, and most of them belong to R2. like you got 1 C tier card and 3 B tiers, and if you're like, again, most command hands don't include R2, realistically you're looking at 2 B tier commands. So, very, very, very strong choices along the entire faction. You just pick, and I don't think you can go wrong, so. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope this was informative. I'm sure somebody will disagree with me on some point here. But unless I'm missing some absolute nonsense that like completely weakens a card, I think these are accurate ratings for Gar. So enjoy yourself, stay safe out there, and have a great night.